So many gardeners struggle with insects such as cabbage loopers, cucumber beetles, squash bugs, vine borers. Today I'm going to show you a safe, effective way to control those insects. It's called trap cropping. Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, is some buzzwords that farmers and commercial nurserymen have been using for years. And basically what it is a toolkit of different ways to control pests, whether it be identification, make sure you got the proper pest you're going after, trapping, mechanical means, biological means, or even insecticides or fungicides. Whatever it is, it's making sure that you're doing the proper way to try to eliminate that pest. It's being smart about the way we use our resources. Trap cropping is a tool that we have in our toolkit of integrated pest management, and what it is planting a plant simply to sacrifice to the insects. Okay, for planting our brassicas, what we did was we planted Chinese cabbage in the midst of our kale and our broccoli and our other plants. Now, as you can see, the Chinese cabbage here just got inundated, got eaten up with cucumber beetles, flea beetles, and worms. Look at the holes in those leaves there. But basically, our broccoli on one side and then our kale on the other side there didn't even get damaged any. All the insects stayed away from these because they was eating those Chinese cabbage. You know, insects are just like animals. They have foods they prefer. And if you give them a crop that they prefer to go to, then they'll leave your other plants alone. So we have to make sure, if we're going to do this trap cropping, that we intermingle trap crops in the midst of our other crops, and we'll call the crops that we want to keep cash crops. So we're going to intermingle these trap crops in the midst of our cash crops to protect them. Okay, so let's talk about pests and cucurbits. And cucurbits covers watermelons, cantaloupes, cucumbers, squash, being winter squash or summer squash. We can have some pretty intense insect pressure on those types of vegetables. The most problematic insects in cucurbits is squash bugs, which is a true bug, vine borer, and cucumber beetles. Man, they can be trouble. If you've ever grown any squash, you know how troublesome those pests can be. The best trap crop to plant for those is Hubbard squash, particularly blue Hubbard squash. Now you're going to plant blue Hubbard squash in the middle of your other cucurbits to help draw those insects, and those insects are going to come first to the blue Hubbard squash. You want to plant your blue Hubbard 2 weeks before you do any of your other crops to give it a little head start so the insects find it first. Now when insects come to this crop here, you're going to keep an eye on them, you're going to monitor them. If you just have one egg cluster underneath here, as what the squash bugs do, you're going to monitor that, and when they get several egg clusters under here, you could come in there and you can treat the trap crop with insecticide to kill those insects and not have to treat your other crops. Another thing is you got to keep these healthy. You want to treat these trap crops just as important with water and fertilizer as much as you do your cash crops, because you want to keep these plants growing so the insects have something to feed on. Well, if you've ever grown much squash, you know how bad squash bugs can be. And you want to keep an eye on your blue Hubbard squash, and those squash bugs are going to lay a copper colored egg underneath the leaf here. And that's what you want to monitor. You want to keep an eye on that. And when you get a decent population underneath there, that's a good time to start your insecticide treatment on your trap crop. You don't have to spray your cash crop, just your trap crop. Vine borers is another insect that's hard to control. It can cause a lot of damage. The nymphs bury themselves into the stem there, hence the name vine borer. They feed in there and they keep the moisture and nutrients from moving within that plant. It can cause a lot of problems with the plant. So it's important to control those, and that blue Hubbard squash keeps that vine borer on that plant and not on the plants that you want to keep our cash crops. Now the vine borer normally is just one generation per year, and those nymphs feed anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Now you don't have to plant a lot of these blue Hubbards in your garden. Normally speaking, 6 to 8 of these per 100 plants of cucurbits will do the job. You just want to put them within 3 to 8 foot of the crop you're trying to protect. You know, I think trap cropping is something all gardeners should be doing, and hey, it helps us eliminate those tough pests to control.